Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning, July 27th, 2021. And we get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at this time, minute or so before 8 o'clock, talk about tips, strategies, techniques. And essentially, it's an always learning environment. What's working, what's not, what is helping clients get funding, what barriers are clients facing. And without a question, if we're trying to get business funding for a client, not talking about a personal loan, but business funding, their legitimacy matters, right? Their credibility, the credibility of the business, not of the business owner, of the business matters. We know that there's some sources of capital that we can get under the EIN only without any personal guarantees. And so with that, we've identified that consistently many of our clients do not have the credibility in terms of having a commercial address. Why does having a commercial address matter? And what are different types of commercial addresses? Well, for obtaining funding under an EIN, so in other words, we're trying to separate ourselves personally from the business needs to seem distinct and credible. And having an address, a commercial address, not the back bedroom of your apartment, but a commercial address is crucial to that. In building our Dun & Bradstreet Paydex score, building our Experian and Equifax commercial, or sometimes called business scores, all important, required, not just important, required to have a commercial address. So if we want to access EIN-based funding, we must have a commercial address. What are the options? We can certainly go buy an office building. That's probably not practical, but I guess that would be to one end of the extreme. The other is we could, I guess, go get a virtual office. Well, what used to work is not credible anymore, unfortunately. Going and getting a shared office address is typically red flag now. So you have the WeWorks, the Regises, there's a lot of players in that virtual or shared office space, but typically you're not getting a unique suite number. You're getting a commercial address, granted, but it's the same commercial address that's being offered to many other people. Well, you can't game the system, right? The databases that track addresses see that multiple businesses are at that same exact address. So let's take Trump Tower in Manhattan. Tall, many stories. Are there lots of different suite numbers? Yes. So is it okay that they have the same street address, but a unique suite number? Yeah, that works. But if every business had just the same street address and same street number or same suite number, not credible. It's not credible because it's flagged as a shared office space. And I know that some of the banks, including Chase Bank, for even just opening a bank account now, if you go to them with a shared office address, a lot of times they'll red flag you and they will not even open a bank account, let alone getting to the point of applying for funding. So what's the point? We've seen the problem, we've lived through the problem, and we came up with a solution. So literally last Friday, we closed on the purchase of a commercial office building. We went out and bought one specifically to use for this purpose. Closed on it Friday, 3 p.m. Central, the title company. Getting the city inspector out this morning so we can get all the utilities switched over. So we went out and bought a large commercial building to subdivide it up to provide unique office addresses, not virtual addresses, not shared addresses, but office addresses. So that is our response. Now, do our clients need to use this commercial address? Absolutely not. Do they need to have a commercial address if they want to get funding under their EIN? They do. They do. So there's just one more option available. Now, we went and bought this commercial complex under the EIN of the business with no personal guarantee. So you can see it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, it works. It works. If you want to get away from using personal credit and being dependent upon personal credit, then you need to have a business that's set up properly. And so we have different educational lessons that we take clients through, including the 27 mistakes. But at the end of the day, to be credible, to stand alone as a business, we need to have a commercial business address. So let's go ahead and talk about this new program, and then I'll talk about what's in it for you as well. I'll make it a bit larger. So as of today, July 27th, we're launching what we affectionately call the cheap business address. And there is a lot of debate, you know, is cheap a good term? You know, do you want cheap? Does that mean cheap quality? But in definition, if you look at Webster's definition of cheap, what cheap means is it's a better value than the price. It's a good deal. And the URL was available, so we now have a cheap business address. So that's the tagline. What we're doing with the cheap business address is also doing the business credit build, because again, the two kind of go together, right? Why would you want to have a unique commercial address? You'd want to have that for legitimacy, for increased access to capital, and to be able to access capital that's based upon the EIN. So just going through the flyer briefly, who should participate? Building business credit is an important part of operating and growing a business. A strong business credit score and profile can provide access to capital under your EIN and increase the value of your company. And again, it's, I don't want to say it's ironic, but it's proof in the pudding that this works, right? We went and formed a brand new entity to go buy a commercial building, and we bought that commercial building under the EIN of the new entity with no personal guarantee. The note is signed, 10% down, 90% financing, no personal guarantee. All right. So a true business commercial address improves the credibility of your business and increases your access to capital. That's a fact. Most banks and lenders do not accept residential or post office boxes. And we can talk about that. I should have mentioned it earlier. Well, can't I just go get a post office box? You can't game the system. Every address is coded in the USPS, United States Postal Service database. If it's a post office box that is ran by the Postal Service or one of these private entities, it's coded as such. You can't game the system when it comes to addresses. You can't take your address and pretend that it's a business address. If it's zoned residential, if it's designated as a residential address, it's a residential address. You can't game the system. And then we've also talked about virtual offices. Now, are virtual offices valuable for other reasons? I'm sure they are. But in terms of getting capital under your EIN, do not think that you're going to be successful, at least on a consistent basis, with the residential address, with the PO box, or with virtual offices. Thus, every business should have a unique business address. Now, what some people don't realize is the address matters. Well, why does the address matter? So I'm talking about the commercial address matters. Well, where you choose your commercial address is going to impact your tax rate, because as you may know, different states and different cities have different tax rates, and there's a handful of states that have no state income tax. And I could have brought up that picture that we have that we use frequently. If you look at the amount of savings by going to a no state income tax state, it could make tremendous difference in your profitability. Not doing it for free. You know, businesses operate for a reason, very affordable. It is cheap, under $100 a month, and that's providing the business address, unique business address, not shared, and then also the business credit build. Okay, so we get to the bottom here. The cheap business address resource provides an affordable solution for early stage businesses to meet an important credibility factor, having a legitimate commercial address. Once a client enrolls, we assign a unique address and then send them the company profile form so we can start building the business credit profile. We do anticipate getting them their first $5,000 of business credit in the first 30 days. So they're going to see results, and they're going to see it quickly. Measurable, demonstrated, real results. Why get a cheap business address? And I kind of covered this a bit earlier. You need a business address, a true commercial address, to be legitimate, and this will do that. Increases access to capital. We've talked some about that. We're going to talk over here in the red a bit more in a moment. And then we're going to help you build out your business credit. You could go to companies that are out there and spend thousands of dollars to build your business credit. It's one of the free perks, and we'll be announcing more and more free perks to clients of the cheap business address as we move forward. What is included? A unique business address. Again, not a shared address, a unique suite number. We bought this commercial complex that frankly has available land so we can erect more buildings on it if we need. But the bottom line is it's a unique business address. Any mail that comes in will be scanned and mailed. Free assistance, not charging for the business credit building, no performance fee, no fee. Free is free. And so that is valuable in itself. Now, I made reference earlier, but I want to dig deeper. I don't think that all of us stop to realize that where we base our business impacts our access to capital. Now, some sources of capital, let's take an SBA loan. Can you get an SBA loan anywhere in the United States? You can. Does it help to have a commercial address to get an SBA loan? In fact, it does, because in some cases, they're going to want to see a commercial address and they need to see the lease. The SBA typically will want to see your signed lease before they will fund your loan. Did you know that? And it can't be a month-to-month virtual office lease. You're not going to get a traditional SBA loan without a commercial lease in most cases. Did you realize that? A lot of people don't realize that. So this isn't just some little neat idea that we're talking about today. This is an essential element to be able to access capital that most people overlook. Now, above and beyond that, there are some specific loan sources or funding sources that it matters of your address. So let's talk about the Chapman Fund. So the Chapman Fund is funded by the taxes of a taxing district. So what does that mean? If your business isn't in the taxing district, you can't be approved for it. You can't get approved for it. Your business has to be based, has to be located in that taxing district. Well, we're not fools, right? We bought this commercial address. We bought this commercial building to offer the cheap business addresses in the taxing district of the Chapman Fund. Now, the Chapman Fund's not going to get you millions and millions of dollars, so don't misinterpret. They'll only go up to $250,000, but it's great. It's what I would consider easier underwriting than bank-based loans because this is money that they have. When I used to work for the SBA/SBDC, their reps would come to us saying, do you please have anyone that can apply for some funds? Because they have quotas that they have to lend out. So up to $250,000 can be used for fixed assets, can be for new construction, renovations, lease property, equipment, inventory, working capital. So the point is, this is a source of capital that's based upon being located in the taxing district because it's money they take from the taxpayers to try to start and grow businesses. It's real, it's legitimate, and you can't get it if you're not in the taxing district. Of course, our commercial address is. Also, there is something called a workforce grant. A little bit more complicated, but the bottom line is it's tax supported, right? So anytime you have tax supported, then you have to be in the taxing district or they're not going to send money out elsewhere. And this is funding to be able to hire new employees. And again, it's a bit more complicated than Chapman Fund, but they'll literally fund the cost of employees, wages, and taxes, and for a period of time to be able to help start and grow small businesses. So with all this being said, I don't want you to see this, I'll make it a little smaller, as a distraction. We're just continuing to look at clients. We have a large number of clients coming through and a lot of clients getting funded. But what we see is often clients are asking for, I want funding under my EIN. I want to separate my personal credit. My personal credit's crappy, or I don't want to use my personal credit. I want to work off of my EIN. And then we start looking, it's like, well, you're not credible enough. Your business is not credible enough to be able to access funding off of your EIN alone. And so one of the key issues is your address. And so this is our solution to that. Again, we're so committed to it, we went and bought a commercial complex, closed on it Friday, this past Friday, to be able to do this and to do it right. City inspectors coming out this morning. So when it passes inspection, then we have already hired the construction crew that's set to start today, putting all new flooring in, doing a lot of remodeling. It's exciting and it's a great opportunity. So what's in it for you? So if you have a client that you've already brought in and they don't have a legitimate address, we can see if this would help them. If you just want to offer this as a standalone, you can do that and you can get paid for it. So it's really that simple. So with that being said, I'm going to dig into the questions that each of you have. And I want you to look at this holistically. You know, we can talk about why commercial addresses are important. We can talk about building the EIN creditworthiness, or we can talk about this individual offering. We can look at it broad or narrow. All right, so Sultan has first question here. Will this work for a business that is in another state over 300 miles away? Well, so let's say that you got an existing business and it's formed elsewhere. Well, does that business, Sultan, have a commercial address? If they already have a commercial address, it's probably not broke, probably not a problem to resolve. If we do need, if they don't have a commercial address, then this is one option. And so then they could have their business domiciled at this new address. Because, and that's a great point, Sultan. Let's go back. Addresses matter, and addresses need to be consistent. And I should have brought this up earlier. Well, what does that mean? Where should addresses be consistent? The address for a given business should match at the federal level. In other words, when you get your EIN, that's what the IRS has on record, at the state level, and certainly with your bank. So those three, we'll leave it to those big three. Any business should have a commercial address, and that commercial address should match at the federal, state, and bank levels. If not, that's going to be a red flag in getting funding that needs to be addressed. So with that being said, if there's an existing business and all three of those addresses match and they have a commercial address, they probably don't have a problem that you and I can help solve, but most don't. So then if they wanted to get a cheap business address, they could do that, but then we would want to make sure that all three match, right? That would be important. Mark asked if the phone number is included, and I don't know that answer for sure yet. I would say by default, no. We're meeting with the IT consultant next Tuesday when they're putting the high-speed suddenlink into the building, and we are exploring having phone numbers, but it's not for sure, and so it's certainly not referenced in the flyer. So at this point, the phone number is not included. That may very well change based upon our meeting next week. Right now, it's the address itself, and getting phone numbers isn't too difficult. You can get a Ring Central number for next to nothing. RingCentral.com. All right, so Zon's asking about pricing, and that's a great point, and I didn't go deep enough. So this is our pricing, but we know that you probably want to make money, and if you want off of offering this, so what you would probably do is you would charge an application fee. You set the application fees on at whatever amount you want, and you keep 100% of it. So let's say you want to charge them $20 to apply, $100 to apply, $250 to apply. That has worked out best. So that gives you the flexibility to charge whatever you feel like the value is for your involvement of helping that client get the address. So the application fee can be set by you, and you keep 100% of it. They would pay you directly. That has worked out well. So, and Zon's asking, can you call that a setup fee? You can. You can call it a setup fee or an application fee, and it is subject to whatever you would like it to be. And I'm curious, you know, if and there's a bunch of you on the training today. So if you were to help a client get a cheap business address, I'm asking each of you to respond now in the question and answer in Zoom. What do you think you would charge as the application fee or the setup fee? What would that amount be? Zon and Barry and Marcel and others. I'm curious, because there's a lot of value there, right? Because again, just to go get a business credit build, they could spend thousands of dollars up front. And in this case, it's very affordable. And I'm seeing numbers from $150 up to $350 app fee or setup fee. And again, that's fine. You set it, you can, you know, what a lot of you I think will do is you'll say, well, normally it's a $499 setup fee, but we've got a promotion for clients that are signing up this week, half off, $250. And again, they're going to pay you that $250 directly. And then from there forward, they'll just pay us the monthly fee. Yeah, so I'm seeing ranges from 100 to 450, and it's up to you, but it's valuable, it's credible. And I know when we first got our SBA loan ourselves for our business, and it was a little bit surprising at that time. We leased an office, not where we're at now, but we leased an office in a co-working building, but we weren't like in a co-working desk. We had a designated, you know, 4-wall real office. Paid a lot of money for it, but it was a real battle because that address was listed as a co-working space, which it is, and no longer closed, but it was a co-working space, but our suite was unique to us. And we had to work with the landlord to present a lease that met the SBA's requirement, because you cannot typically get an SBA loan if all you have is a short-term month-to-month lease. It has to be set up properly. So is this all about getting SBA loans? Are we promising SBA loans to people? No. I'm just saying that a business address is much more important in accessing capital than what most small business owners are thinking about. And the address matters. Where it's at matters. It's going to affect both your taxation, and it's also going to affect sources of capital. And I believe that, you know, these two alone are a reason to sign up, let alone the core proposition. Okay, so I need to see if there's any other questions before we end this today. So let's step back and talk about big picture. What do you and I do? We improve financial literacy of small businesses. We help them access capital. How do we help them access capital? Are we a lender? No, we don't loan money. What we do, though, is we assist them in meeting the underwriting criteria of the right source of capital based upon their mitigating circumstances. So we improve financial literacy, we build their loan package, and we help them fix the gaps that exist. And if you do that, you get approved, just like a mortgage, right? If you met all the check, if all the boxes were checked, you would get approved for a mortgage. It would be illegal for that bank or that lending institution to not give you the mortgage if all the boxes are checked. Well, when it comes to small business financing, there's a lot of unchecked boxes by a lot of small businesses. And part of it is they don't know. And part of it is it's difficult to navigate the process. Well, that's what you and I do. We're helping them navigate the process. So I believe that we'll probably enroll hundreds of clients a month in the cheap business address. And you certainly could use this as a door opener to attract clients. Then you could turn around and pivot them into the access to capital or capital ready if you wanted, or make this available on a standalone. I mean, take Marcel, for example. You know, he's going to charge $450 as an app fee for each one. With his sphere of influence and with this value proposition, he'll probably add a new client a day, and let's just say 20 days in a month. I mean, he could generally, realistically make around 10 grand a month by just helping small businesses with this resource. But Marcel's no fool. What he'll do is he'll get them signed up for this, and then he'll pivot over and say, well, you know what? We're going to deliver exactly as promised here, but what about the rest of what you would need to be able to access a guaranteed $100,000? And so then at that point, you'll be able to very easily pivot them to the next sale. All right, so are there, okay, Zahn's asking for a copy of the flyer. Yes, we'll get this out. Are there any, Mark's asking about month to month. We're not going to do the month to month leases because it doesn't work. Well, first of all, if we did month to month, the price would have to be higher, but because of the effort and involvement of getting a client set up. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Mark, lenders don't want to see a commercial address that's month to month. That does not build legitimacy. That does not build credibility. That does not demonstrate stability. And so what we're trying to do is we want to monetize this for you. We want this to be a new revenue stream for you, generate more money for you and your business and your family. But also, we want to literally move clients to a position of a higher degree of credibility, a higher degree of legitimacy. And so we've absorbed the fixed cost of buying this commercial office complex, and you have just another arrow in your quiver to go start conversations with people, to help people, and to monetize it. And you make absolutely as much money as you want, because you can charge that what you can refer to as an app fee or a setup fee, and you select what that is. That's between you and the client. You charge it, you collect it. That's fine. And no, you don't. We got a question from Scott. Do you have to be a licensed real estate broker? No, because with commercial addresses, the way that this is set up is that you can charge them an app fee or a setup fee, as Zahn calls it, and you don't have to be a realtor. Okay, are there any other questions about this new resource? What's your feedback? Do you think it's needed? Do you think it's not needed? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? I'm looking for a little bit of feedback from each of you in the Q&A. Again, we only bring it to you today because we see that there's a need. There's a lot of small businesses looking for capital that just simply don't have the credibility, the legitimacy when it comes to having a business address. A lot of them want to access the EIN type of financing, but you have to qualify for that. And it's not about personal credit scores. It's about, is your business set up properly? So I think this is a big deal, and it solves a big problem. All right, so Zahn's asking, and we'll close out with this because I got to go meet with the inspector at the commercial building. Zahn's asking, how long does it take to get the Chapman Fund? Well, understand, we never guarantee to a client any specific type of funding, right? Because they may or may not qualify for it. It may or may not be a good fit based upon their industry or other specifics. So I just wanted to preface that. In terms of getting the Chapman Fund application in, we can get that application in less than a week, and the same on the workforce grant. Now, ultimately, the Chapman Fund makes a decision of approval or not. The workforce grant division of the government, whatever that's called, makes the decision. So, we're not somehow delegated that we get to approve people for 250,000 just because they have a cheap business address. What we're saying is that by having an address in the right taxing district, it does open up access to some unique types of funding and resources that don't exist elsewhere. Kevin says definitely need another great resource. Thank you. I think so too. Because again, I see so many of the clients really wanting to separate business funding from personal finances, and this is one of the key missing ingredients. And so lastly, I see that Joseph's asking, can they just form a new entity using this address? So let's say that they don't have an entity that's compliant, or they don't have an entity at all. If I'm reading Joseph's question correctly, can they just sign up for this and then get an entity using this address from scratch? Yes. And that's probably one of the fastest ways to go. Normally, I don't want to exaggerate, but normally, if they signed up with a cheap business address, we should be able to have their business entity formed and their EIN all in less than a week. So they can go from nothing to having a credible setup in less than 7 days, less than 5 business days. All right. Well, thanks everyone for your time. We'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place, and appreciate. Also, I did want to mention we have filled up August 20th training did completely fill up. We ended up with more enrollments than we had space. A couple of you, we refunded money this morning because there's not enough space. So we're in the process of scheduling another in-person training for the Train the Trainer. August 20th has filled up, and we processed several a refund this morning because we're overbooked. But that's a great problem to have. We'll be scheduling another session here soon if you're interested. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.